Hello, this is Lawrence Romanowski from the Distinctive Collection in Calgary, Canada. And it's a cold Saturday morning here in Calgary, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to go through some of our cars, and particularly the DB9 and the DBS. So in about 2005, they introduced the DB9 car, and this would have been the first new Aston Martin that was built in the new plant. So they would have built a totally state-of-the-art plant. The cars would have been brand new, everything CAD/CAM designed. The construction would have been completely changed. The car before the DB9 was the DB7, and that was based on the Jaguar XK8, which in turn was based on the Jag XJS. And that goes back to the early 70s when they were designing it, and then the production of the XJS started in 1976. So the DB9, although a lovely charismatic car, or the DB7, a lovely charismatic car, did have some, I would say, some compromises built into it by the fact that it was based on a platform where some of the parts of that went back to the early 70s. So in 2005, they came out with the two main Aston Martin cars, the DB9 and the V8 Vantage. And the DB9 is the V12 car. It's about a foot longer than the Vantage. It's a 12-cylinder engine, and most of them have automatic transmissions. Whereas the Vantage is a much sportier car, 12 inches shorter. It's got an automated manual, a gearbox called a Sport Shift. This is a ZF automatic, although both cars can be had in manuals as well. But they feature, they're both built on a very similar platform. They call this platform the VH platform, and that means vertical horizontal. And now what they mean is they have an aluminum structure which they can then vary for width and height, and they can spin off numerous models on it, but keep the overall platform costs reasonable. And it's very successful. Even our four-door Rapide has that same platform as well, bonded and riveted aluminum structure. Okay, so then they would have come out with the DB9 in 05. In 2009, it would have had the first sort of major revision. It would have got the crystal and glass key and a bump in the engine horsepower from 450 to 470. And then for 2010, this is a 2010, it would have got adaptive dampening. And by that, what we mean is the variable shock rates. So, on a shock absorber on a car, you've got some sort of fluid in there, and the fluid would then pass through different apertures, and depending on the viscosity of the fluid, the ability for it to flow, and the size of the apertures, then you develop basically how stiff the car is. And so they have been, through some of the advances in the technology, able to come out with shocks which have variable rates of viscosity. There's different ways to do it. Most of the time it's a valving, so you control the aperture, and then you make the hole smaller or larger, and then the fluid has a tougher time or an easier time going through it. And then you would mate that to a computer, and the computer would have various inputs from the wheel speeds to the amount of movement in the suspension, steering angle, yaw, all the different acceleration forces in the car. And then that computer program would then decide what the most appropriate stiffness for the suspension would be, and it could do it in milliseconds, etc. So that's something that the DB9 got in 2010, and it makes the car a little bit softer when you want it to be soft, and a little bit harder when you want it to be hard. So the problem is, of course, with a conventionally damped suspension and with one setting, if you want the car to corner lean free, and you really have to tie it down, and then and then it's not much fun over the bumps. Or, you know, if you make the car, you put a luxury setting on it, a specification on it, and then it glides over the bumps nicely. But then, you know, when you take it to the track, it leans too much. And so the new generation of active suspension or adaptive dampening, there's many different names for it, can kind of get the best of both worlds. And then generally, you know, in the cars there'd be different settings. You could put it on the soft setting if you wanted it to be soft all the time, or you could put it on the hard setting if you wanted it to be hard. And normally the computer will override you and not let you, you know, if you're cornering really hard, it'll just figure that you made a mistake and you really want the suspension to be a little bit harder. And so anyway, the DB9 got that, which is very worthwhile. And then from 2010, here's the 2011, and there were some changes as well. I mean, the clear lights were added, and the black car on the end, there's a DBS, and it came out with clear lights, and everybody liked those so much they were adopted for the rest of the cars. And the DB9 got a subtle reworking of the lower sills, not as aggressive as the DBS. So that's the sill from the new DB9, and here's the old one right beside it. So they're subtly different, and the front bumper cover as well. So there's the old one, and the new one again is very subtly different. And then of course there's a bunch of different wheel options, and those have changed. So that's the steady evolution of a DB9. Really, there's not too much difference in it visually or mechanically, but it has been subtly massaged over the years.